So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good middle of the night, at least one of us. And welcome to another scene for the Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. Now, things have gone down. They've gone down so good. And, you know, different people on Sept are feeling different ways about these things that have gone down. And among them is our sweet, innocent, completely flawless little dear Bay, who has who has in fact started to feel some serious ways and has avoided her dear Falcon Bay for a little bit, and has wrestled with how to deal with how she's feeling on the whole thing, and finally has gotten to the point where she's doing that weird hover thing near the Seeker's cabin, where she's gotten the conviction to get this far, and that's a step. But you know, that porch is maybe not. Maybe should she not? Should she wait for him to come by? Should she happen to catch him somewhere? What? So yeah, dear angst. Not like right at the foot of the porch, but you know, not far.
Well, it's certainly not the Seeker's cabin.
Oh, not the Seeker's, the Strider's cabin. Whatever, you know, that other S word. Sorry.
Yes.
Strider's cabin.
It's very naughty. Jacob, Jacob, I mean, he's around. Eventually, he shows back up to his cabin. Wow, he was at work today. What a surprise. Running your own precincts. Fucking tiring. How about that? Anyway,
Madness.
What madness? Yes. So you don't really see Jacob coming from the Strider's cabin more than you see him coming from, like, down the pathway. And then he sees you and is interested in why you be harboring, why you be creeping. And just kind of ends up walking on over, because presumably you're fairly close to the cabin. You're kind of just in front of it, staring.
Yep.
So,
I mean, she's not a very good creeper. She's the hold on, let me sneak. Oops, I threw a dumpster down this alleyway. So she's not so much creepy as she's just kind of standing there awkwardly. So she'll glance up as Jacob does come around, and after a moment's pause, does something that he might find frustrating, and actually goes so far as to do the whole take a knee, lift the chin nonsense with which he is so familiar.
mm-hmm. Well, Jacob, gives a standing motion to rise. And we'll greet her. Hey, 10 Point, what's going on?
And her brows knit. We will go based on that complete lack of subterfuge to say that it's very clear that she's out of sorts and agitated. Raya, I don't know if I can keep coming for tea.
All right. You want to talk about that?
And she kind of opens her mouth for, kind of parts her lips for a second, closes it, thinks about it again, and just kind of turns to affix him with what earnestly looks like something of a hurt expression, and just helplessly offers a shrug and asks simply, "How could you?"
You mean?
Raya, Raya, every time that you have asked what you could do to help me, what have I asked you for?
What's OC?
OC, like 99% of the time, if he's ever been like, oh, and if I can ever do anything for you, she's like, please be lenient on my pack mate, or please make efforts with my pack mate. Always asking for clemency for Aiden, like every time.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, well then he'll respond with leniency. He's not as blunt about it as I'm saying, sorry.
No, I got you. It's okay. There's certain allowances being made for it being 2 a.m. And yeah, she just gestures faintly, not impolitely, but just like, that. The little hand comes out. So how is it then, Raya, that all this time, that this is all I've asked of you? You've been building files on my Raya?
I've been building files on most Gara and Seb, to be fair.
But you haven't threatened the rest of the people on Sept with the fact.
Oh, I've given other Gara a dead warning. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
Raya, my pack has to come first. And I saw. I heard. So how could you?
There are no less than 4 instances. This keeps happening.
What keeps happening, Raya?
Whenever your packmate enters a situation, and then there is anger, division, and on actually several of these 4 occasions, violence, am I supposed to keep ignoring that?
We are Guru, Raya. Violence is part of the package. I'm not saying that my Raya is flawless, but it is because of that flaw that I have asked you to be lenient, and I have worked on it. I have broken myself, working to make him better. I have visited the right master. I have tried to check him at every turn to fix this flaw. And you threw it in his face. Did you think that would help?
I don't think he's interested in being helped.
I don't think you know him. I don't think you know me.
Do you know what would have happened if I hadn't been lenient?
You would have taken aggressive action, and we would have stopped seeing each other long ago. And things would have been much worse than they are now.
Would they? Between
They
us,
would,
sure.
Raya.
But for Sept? For everyone?
Oh yes, Raya.
He's not immune to the consequences of his actions.
And
He's on his
why?
5th chance. This is his 5th. 5! And you're saying I'm not being lenient. 5! For stuff that's... I mean, there have been times when people have come for me for just one of these situations is more serious than a lot of what I punish other people for. And
this is compared to others like Shinlo. Have you been keeping strikes on him too and building files for every time that he acts wildly?
Shinlo, I actually have been keeping track of. I'm not sure if you basically have. It's an arbitrary category, but normally what I do is when someone is about on that red line, and once they cross that red line, they're in punishment territory. I give them that warning. This is usually after they've already done something.
Have you warned Shinlo, Raya?
Yes, absolutely. I directly called him to T, just like this, laid all my cards on the table. This is where I stand. This is what's going on, and told him like this is the red line, and you're straddling that red line right now. And if it continues, then I'm going to punish you. If I get repeat offenses, these punishments are going to escalate. Do you understand? He said he understood.
Was this before or after he was caught in the webs, Raya?
This was after, and I had him. Well, actually, that's confidential, so I'm not going to talk on that. That has nothing to do with you or me in the sense that that's if I were to do that, I would. Well, I would be breaking a promise I made, so I cannot speak on that issue.
Yeah, she gives a little hand wave. The details really aren't, she's not digging for those. Do you have a file on me, Raya?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it say?
Nicely good.
Do you know anything about the people that you're writing these strikes on? What they're going through? What they're suffering? Do you take it into account? Can you, if you don't know them?
When it comes to what the fuck? Okay, why did it just go? Shit.
You still alive? Do you need a moment?
Yep, still here.
Okay. Like, if you need a second, let me know, man.
That's cool.
Okay.
If there are mitigating circumstances that I'm not aware of, then it needs to be brought to my attention.
How can we bring these things to your attention, Raya, when you don't bring to attention the fact that you're keeping these records until well after the fact? Until it gets to a point, meaning that for all we know, for all I know, most of those strikes against Aiden very possibly involve the fact of his flaw, or the fact that he did teeter on the brink of Hirano.
If he has genuine issues with his mental stability, which apparently, according to him, is total madness, which is fine. That's his answer, and I don't believe it to be a dishonest one. But he can't, we can't be in that situation where I treat it as if both are true. And don't get me wrong, the way I approached that was incredibly inappropriate. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, that was absolutely inappropriate.
She kind of exhales a terse little breath, as though kind of like venting out a little bit of the steam, trying to keep herself on the calm side in response. Mariah, until lately, has teetered on the brink of Hirano. And I have bent myself backwards, trying to keep him functional, so that this did not inconvenience the Sept. And so that it did not affect the people around him, and I could not be flawless in it. And he has since... And she closes her eyes as if, like, just... It's painfully relieving, almost. He has since recovered. But it has been long and it has been arduous.
You've explained to me, I want to explain to you why I acted the way I did. This is an excuse. This will be 100% the truth. If you think I'm lying, you can call me out on it. You've spoken freely so far. I wouldn't want you to stop now. There is another word for what honor is, and to me it's more important. It's called good faith.
Raya, honor and trust are not the same.
Nonetheless, it's the bedrock upon which I function. And I don't mean that in a political sense. I mean that as in, that's my day-to-day life. That is who I am and the man I want to be. It is everything. We are where we are now because we act in bad faith. And when we act in good faith, things turn out better because we do have some degree of trust in each other and believe in each other, or at least tolerate each other, because we can at least say, well, this guy will probably keep his promise or hold up his end of the bargain, or even on a grander political scale, we trust that we won't be stabbed in the back. That was attacked by someone. That attack was baited by someone else.
And you think all of the mistrust on this sept can be attributed to Mariah? You think that without him in the room, none of it exists? You earnestly believe that?
You spot no less than 3 incidences of this. It's...
Mariah calls these things to the surface, as is his duty. He points out your weaknesses. It is not
attacking
the most
people's
tactful...
good faith is not... No, that to weaken bonds is a bad thing, not a good thing.
It's not weakening the bonds, Raya. It is merely pointing out the weaknesses that are already present.
Like pretending everyone was friends after the fact? Because that's the complete opposite of what you stated, and that happened. And I called that out.
I can't know. I haven't ridden in his head, not for everything. I don't watch your more partying.
But
how can you expect to be trusted by people that you don't know and that don't know you? How much time have you spent with my pack, Raya? How much time have you invested in anything but me or keeping an eye on my Raya.
I used to spend time with Balian.
And I know he has been away. But there are more of us. There are many more.
I mean, where was Banshee? She's been missing for what, months?
She's been quiet, but she's been present. And she's made her well known to the pack.
If you want to know the answer to that, to be honest, I mean, that's in part largely because apart from Aiden, you've been the only one of your pack around. If I'm going to be brutally honest, that's why.
And Alice?
Dallas. That's fair.
I know that my Alpha and Beta are often busy and often pulled away. Balian has been away on business for an extended period. I don't think any of us expected him to be gone this long. But Raya, even with the time we've spent together, can you name something that I like that is not a matter of course for a Theurge? Can you name things that I hate? Do you even know my name?
We talked about your name.
But still, it has been fun. But how much do you know about me? How well do you understand me, Raya?
How much are you willing to trust me with?
She actually pauses and gives this a serious moment's consideration. And after a pause, an earnest pause, this isn't like a showy thing. She actually looks as if she meant to speak, thought twice about it, committed some thought, and finally she reaches into her swag and she pulls out a thing and extends it to him, an offering. And it's definitely her scourge. I've tried to trust you, Raya. And I know that you think that the way that I live is needlessly harsh. But the people that love me, the people that I trust, they know what degree of force is necessary to make sure that I'm not dragged down the spiral. It's very easy for the straight and narrow path to curve and turn and spiral in.
I believe it's very easy for people to do that for others.
And if it is so easy, then why can't you do it?
Have you ever considered that if I were to do that, that would be a violation of our trust and not a reinforcement of it?
No.
War is driven by resentment. The reason I never did that, and he'll actually just slam with the scourge in a whipping motion, very harshly at the ground.
He actually accepted it out of her hand?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, he slams it. Okay.
I don't believe. I mean, obviously, you know that I believe we're a different race. But what I never elaborate, or perhaps what I never really clarified properly, is that I believe that drives resentment. It doesn't drive purity.
Do you believe that I resent my pet, Raya?
I believe I have to betray myself every day, and that it's extraordinarily easy to make a mistake because I have. I know that's not a very good answer.
It's a tiny head shake. He's an Adrian speaking to a Cleith. He doesn't make mistakes. He just gets enthusiastic, obviously.
I don't believe you resent your pack, no. But how many others have come to do so because of this very methodology?
A lack of willingness to understand and resenting something you refuse to understand is the flaw of the observer, not of the practitioner. If they wish to understand, I would be happy to explain and to make it very clear that I see this as necessary. With Balian so long gone, she points to it. I have made ample use because there is no Philitox to take my confessions.
Why does punishment have to be physical? This is the one part I never did understand.
It's not always. But it has been many times in the past. And this way, it is the way to which I am accustomed. Feeling pain is my way of repaying the sins that I've done. It's not as though the damage is permanent, Raya. Not unless we want it to be. She says the chick with like a lash mark across her face and a cut down her chin. Like it takes a grievous kind of overstep to earn that, though. Besides, Ryan, if I must pay in pain, I prefer it to be physical. It's far easier to recover from.
You know, I did do something like this once.
You mean lessons or before him?
No, I crucified him. Far worse than giving you 10 lashes.
This is true, but I have not put a sept at risk with my idiocy.
We didn't even prepare anything for the Rite of Satire. Nothing.
Do you
It was
believe
never.
Punishment can only pay in rights, Raya.
But it wasn't about that. That's why we hadn't done anything for the Ray of Satire. Because if it was about making an example, if it was about forcing the issue of responsibility, we would have. We didn't. Because it was an easy opportunity to hurt someone. And conveniently justified. And only one person advised against that. The thing is, we didn't even need to crucify him. He was already going on a suicide mission. He was already losing his rank. He'd already lost everything.
What's the lesson learned, Raya?
I don't think anyone learned the lesson they were supposed to learn. When push came to shove, everyone went silent. Jeers and howls for the witch hunt, but when push came to shove, when it came time to get down to business, nothing. Why do you think the truth capture looked at us as if we were fucking idiots? We missed the point of our own punishment.
I don't see how, Raya. The totem's trust has not been violated since, and so long as any who were here that day remain on Sept, I doubt it will happen again.
No, but at the end of the day, Forlorn's mistake was always based on foolishness and not malicious intent. That much I know, even if he did try to weasel.
Her eyes narrow a bit. Does the intent really matter when it leads to the violation of a cairn, when it leads to the weakening of a sept, when it leads to a totem spirit abandoning their children? The intention does not matter, Raya. There are few things all tribes agree on.
It's kind of hard for me to explain because it's a very distant perspective. But intent has always mattered, not just ethically, but legally. That's a fact. That's not up for debate. That has always been true. I'm
In the
laughing,
nation,
and I don't
Raya,
mean
or
to
in the
sound like
human
I'm
world?
laughing.
Because human law is completely outside of my interest.
Law is contextual, so yes, intent is part of that context. Will it always? I mean, is it always going to matter? Well, it depends on the severity of the crime. I can't paint things black and white because they never are. This is because we have an enemy that is black, we believe ourselves to be white. That is not true, never will be.
I don't imagine I'm flawless, Raya.
Is anyone?
I don't believe I am white, as you would say, or that any member of the sept is. However, beyond a certain point, intention means nothing. Whether he meant to or not, he crippled the sept. It was not some small misstep. It was not some simple mistake that could be corrected. It was something that took a good deal of time. It took the effort of all of the Theurges. It took the Keeper's face. It took missions and shimminages. It took the effort of the entire sept to correct something that could have led to it falling.
Took his life. So I don't see what there is to complain about.
I am not complaining, Raya. I'm justifying.
Which had nothing to do with the crucifixion at all. In fact, that seems to be the only part of that which seemed relevant at all to the sept was when everyone was baying and howling for it. When it came down to crunch time, it was a moot point.
It was a lesson, and all watched and all learned. It was a harsh lesson, but a lesson all the same. I don't think myself above the same level of punishment were I to commit the same crime.
Yeah, but none of us did either before or after.
All the better.
I mean, I can argue that this and that is justified because of this and that crime. I mean, I don't think anyone's arguing that he fucked up massively. But I don't think anyone learned anything from that because they all asked for it. They were happy to see him brutalized, but they didn't seem to be paying attention. People only fell silent and started to pay attention when a true catcher pointed out why it was so foolish in the first place. Then everyone stopped.
Being chastised by an elder is a sobering instance. Most fall silent.
Well, he didn't say anything. Other than that, oh, you appear to have not written a script or gotten a costume. He didn't say we were wrong. In fact, he didn't even say it to anyone in the crowd either. But they got the point. Crucifixion, everyone's just kind of yelling and screaming in joy, which is wouldn't it be? Isn't the whole point that it's supposed to be a deterrence? That's what I mean. It's supposed to be a deterrence. If so, why are people cheering happily? You think people would be sobered by it? If it's a form of entertainment, then it's no longer serving its purpose.
If any among them found it sobering, I would imagine it would be because they suffer a guilty conscience or fear of repeating the mistake. Then again, I think we are butting up against the same issue that we have already. And she again gestures very lightly to the scourge that he's holding. Well, I don't expect our ways to become your ways. If you don't know us and you don't understand us, how can you possibly expect us to trust you? If you don't understand our motivations, how can you rule accordingly?
Do you understand mine?
I have learned a great deal since coming to this Sceptria. A great deal about the people that live here, the people that have been raised here, the people who have come here. How much have you learned about those who have come from another place and have been roused to different traditions?
I've been to several of those places.
Did you grow up in them, Raya?
Did you grow up here? That's not an argument. I could throw that back in your face.
How long did you stay in these other places, Raya? A week?
So the distance of time is now months? No, I spent months in the Amazon.
The Amazon is not a complicated place.
Well, I mean, it seems to hold many of the values that you agree with, considering I executed a blind woman. That was my Fostern challenge. I've lived it. I'm there. I've gone all the way.
So I will just hand you the cookie in that you say you've executed a blind woman, and she doesn't know the justification for it, but feels as though she knows Jacob well enough to know that he fought it tooth and nail and it had to be righteous. And there's just a certain level of humanity that isn't there, I suppose. Like, there's no empathy for having to kill someone. She doesn't seem to see it as a something that needs to be sympathized with. I'm not sure how to phrase it really, but there's just a certain level of just flat acceptance there that at least Jacob might find jarring, because most people would kind of be like, ugh, and not 10 point.
I've spent, ever since I've become a Garu, compromising, betraying myself, bending, breaking, destroying everything I ever believed in to rebuild myself so that I might see myself as an acceptable figure within this nation. To carry out my responsibilities. I am a serial killer. Of that, I have no doubt. I have sacrificed so much. So much. I have broken myself down time and time again. To try and accommodate the nation and its laws, and you and your pack within my life. So that might be some form, some tiniest form of reconciliation. That I might be able to relate in even the most remotest way. Every day, I prove myself to be a hypocrite to what I believe in. Every day. And now I'm being asked to bend again.
I'm sorry.
After being told two things which contradict each other, which can't be true. One of you is wrong.
Where's the contradiction, Raya?
You spent a lot of time protecting your packmate. That is admirable. But perhaps he needs to take some responsibilities for his actions or step out of the limelight because he's not mentally stable.
He's recovered, Raya.
He's
without
been
knowing
given
the
more
details.
I've given him more chances than any other girl on this set. Bar none. Bar none. There is no one else I've given more chances to. That I will never contest. Sorry, I will never allow to be contested. He got a fucking light when he lied to the truth catcher, by the way. Anyone else who had done that, he would have been in the they would have been in the shit. And can you imagine I mean, not this set, one of your sets. You think lying to the truth catcher would ever be tolerated? That's not ragabash material. That's just lying about a transgression that was committed by two parties. That's not playing a game. That's perjury.
Was it lying, Raya, or was it forgetfulness?
Yeah, that seems to come up a lot.
Intent means so much to you.
It doesn't matter to you, so why would you question it? Wouldn't it be just as bad either way?
To forget something is not to lie. It is to not know.
Everyone was the intention about it. So it doesn't.
It would be a completely different thing, Raya. I do not classify not knowing as a lie.
Legally not telling the truth via mission is actually considered a lie. That's...
To purposefully know something and omit it, yes. But to forget in the heat of the moment, aka having the player totally forget. To forget in the heat of the moment is not the same as purposefully withholding. I am sorry that you have to adjust from growing up believing that you are human. I'm given to understand that it's very difficult.
It's not even about humanity anymore. That part left long ago. I cut off someone's head. That's done. The nation can't even cope with itself. Humanity isn't a part of that conversation. I can work with a red talon.
Apologies, Raya.
But well, I apologize.
I merely noticed that humanity seemed to be the better part of your complaints for what you have suffered for the nation.
No, humanity's hardly flawless. How many wars have they created for themselves? The nation isn't the only thing that can't learn from history. And after all, humanity localized its conflicts, but they're still happening. The only thing that stopped them from killing each other en masse was the notion that they might all die at once. It wasn't out of kindness, it was out of pragmatism.
She shakes her head a bit. I meant in concept humanity, Raya. The things that you were taught growing up among humankind, but very different than what we learn in the nation and what we live in the nation. And the process of transitioning from one to the other seems to be a very trying process. I've seen many cubs go through it.
Well, I suppose it would depend on what you define as the nation. I mean, after all, the tribe is there and beyond what that is.
Even here, the nation is still harsher than the reality a human can appreciate.
I like this place. It's unique.
It is certainly that, Raya.
You wouldn't find this many people with so many different, well, places in the world, cultures, identities, nationalities. I've been to quite a few sets at this point, but the only one which really rivals it is the Amazon. And, well, I mean, very different reasons why that's, well, anywhere near similar to this place.
This is true, Raya, from what I hear. And this place is certainly different. I cannot say that I like it, but it is different.
What don't you like about it? Is it the harshness? And by that I mean the lack thereof to what you're accustomed to. You seem to mention that a lot, or is it something else?
And she mulls over it for a second, picking her words. It is not definitively the lack of harshness, Raya. Though one can't argue that pain retains and people learn much faster. But no, the lines here are never clearly drawn. The goalposts are always moving. It's infuriating to me to see that there is no set standard for anything. Something could happen once and be treated one way and happen a week later, and the result is completely different from those who have the power to, she kind of gestures a few times, rule over whatever the issue may be. It's always changing. People's expectations are always changing. Nothing is set in stone. How can you possibly be expected to meet expectations when the expectations change, Raya?
That's kind of conflicting to me because besides you and Salatehim, I could say that out of most people who consider themselves traditionalists on this set, I have seen them state one thing and then do another. But that doesn't answer your question.
I did not question, Raya. I answered. And I confess that we slip up here. We slip up frequently. It's a very jarring place, and it is easy to slip. And that is why it alarms me so much. Especially when you refuse to acknowledge those slips and to punish them accordingly. And she again, vaguely gestures towards the whip in his hand. It doesn't always take a right. It always doesn't take a trial. But if slips are not corrected, they become bigger and bigger until suddenly we are without a septotum. Because too many times, too many small mistakes were forgiven and overlooked and unmentioned, to the point where people believe that the slips were not important at all.
If I believe this place to have any one standard, it would be in its barest form, and truly it is the thinnest of curtains. But it would be that of tolerance. Bonoras have that done, at least. How so many different packs, how a red talon can exist in a city set. How all of these people are able to commingle despite all of their bickering, like you and me right now, and still work towards a common goal is an incredible feat. You're right in that this set lacks, well, I suppose it depends on what you mean by set standard. It doesn't really have many behavioral norms. It's, in so many ways, it's a cultural mixing pot, isn't it? Or melting pot, if you know the phrase.
Yes, I do, Ryan.
All these ideologies clashing, working together at the same time, trying to usurp one another and gain dominance. Politics. But I mean, I think that's really it. The only real defining difference between perhaps this set and one back at your home is that one side is dominant, one political ideology is dominant, one culture is dominant. Here, none can really gain one over the other. It's not really a balancing act because it's not. There is, well, Montmoral could be the greatest political mastermind I've ever known because, I mean, she managed to create this in the first place. But it's not like there's some secret conspiracy keeping us, bouncing off each other or keeping us in a fine balance. We nip at each other, then one side punches the other, then we're pulled apart, and then we learn to make up, then we do it again. And then someone else jumps in. And then they get pulled out, and then someone else is kicked out, and someone else comes back in. But part of me, I have to admit, resents the notion of a set standard.
What if that standard was simply discipline, Ryan?
Well, no one's shown that. If it were?
Of course they haven't. There has been no disciplinary action to enforce it.
It would be very easy of me to use that. I could use that. I could say I absolutely agree and then suppress anyone who opposes me. And do you know what the implications of that would be? that is an extraordinarily dangerous line to walk down.
I did not suggest you become a monarch, Raya.
Well, the nation is ruled by Gaian monarchs.
It is, but you are not he. Nor are you the Alpha of the Sept. But if you see so many slights, why does it take so long for them to go unmentioned? And why does it take so long for even mild forms of punishment? This, and she gestures more openly, more boldly to the whip.
Now, keep in mind...
This does not keep a person from doing their duty, Raya. This does not last. But it leaves an impression.
Well, keep in mind, you came here over supposed slice between me and Aiden. They haven't really been addressed. Again, I can kind of toss this argument around because it's not just one side of the aisle. And that's the problem. I think it would be easier. I think why it was easier to work with Smiles in the Night was because everyone understood his standard. Everyone understood how he fought. There was never any human interplay there. There was no compromising. But I mean, that's the paradox, isn't it? You compromise and you risk losing who you are. You don't compromise, you'll never see the other side at all.
In the end, Raya, my purpose in coming here was to express my disappointment, particularly in you poking, prodding at something that you knew was a weakness, and for all you knew might have thrown my Raya into a frenzy.
Then he shouldn't prod mine.
You do not suffer the same thorny knot in your belly that he does, unless you mean to let me into your mind and show me the same thing.
So is he responsible for his actions or not? This is not a game.
He is responsible for his actions, but if you purposefully poke and prod and try to provoke those reactions, knowing that there's a weakness there, then it is on your head.
Then he shouldn't provoke mine. It's as simple as that. I did not push him. I called him to address that slight, that he took offense, that he said, I'm sorry you were offended, but then he says, but you're offending me and that's wrong. And that you're arguing that is somehow okay, that you can say, well, he has that anger issue and that he can't be held responsible. But it's okay for him to do that to me and you just avoid that issue. That's not fair. You can't ask me to be lenient and adjudicate fairly, but then make that argument. It is dishonest. It contradicts itself. That's not a fair argument.
I am not saying that this is fair. And I am not saying this because he has prompted me to say it.
I'm not saying he prompted you to say it. I think you're doing this of your own accord.
I am saying this because the thing that you poked at has been my crusade since I came to know it rests there. And he has made so much progress. And that one thing could have sabotaged so much work. It's finally quiet. It hasn't reared its head in ages. But you had to poke it. You feel like trust is inherent to, or trust is somehow synonymous with honor. But all the same, Raya, at this point I have tried. I have tried so hard to give you chances to understand. And I've tried to understand you. But in the end...
I mean, have you, like you said, I mean, tell me my name. Tell me this, tell me that. What about me then? Come on. Like, it's...
I can say that you're passionate about the human life you left behind and the work that you held there.
I mean, I'm still a cop. I arrested 2 4-4 squads.
And precious few who come to the nation are able to maintain the professions that they held before. But you have passionately clung to it. It is something that you love, or you would not have tried so hard to keep it.
And yet I betray it every day. I destroyed a hospital full of people. I executed a blind person. I've massacred city blocks.
And I have flayed a man alive. The nation is cruel and ugly.
And if that's supposed to be the solution, then I don't really know what to say than look at the scab around you and ask you if you're happy with it. Why do you think the Impurgium stopped? It's not because we were kind. It's the same reason humans stopped killing each other.
She adopts a faint head tilt.
Humans stopped killing each other because they realized everything would end if they did. It was never out of compassion, it was out of pragmatism.
Are there not still wars, Raya? Are there not still mass killings in cities alone?
Yeah,
The
had a
humans still
nuclear
slaughter their
weapon,
own.
but they localize it. That's what I mean. They realized it was no longer sustainable. They had to stop. They had to slow down. Individuals acting out is common. I mean, come on, like, so much of the human condition is part of why the nation is suffering. I'm not saying Smalls is wrong, he's right. I mean, why do you think I tried so hard to try and cling to the positive aspects? It's because they don't exist in either society. It's because they're dying. It's not because I believe humanity is that way, because it's not. I believe it because someone has to try and do something with these traits, with this positivity, what little we have, rather than just accepting cruelty is okay. No, that's just succumbing to the same logic that caused all of this destruction in the first place.
Positivity is not exclusive to humankind, Raya. We still have our loves and our joys.
But they're not conceptualized. I mean, the very fact we're talking like this right now is a Homid concept, it's a human conception. The litany is based on our human thought processes. Why would Lupus write things down? It would be unnecessary. It's unnecessary to their thought process. It's not needed. It is an unnecessary complication. But those same things that stopped us from destroying ourselves are what perpetuate us destroying ourselves. That's the problem. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just rambling here, trying to hope that you'll understand why I'm so miserable, to understand that why I get so angry when this happens, because it's not an attack on my human life. It's an attack on something that I want to make real again, that maybe once was, that should be, and should be how we win. Shouldn't it? Shouldn't people that trust each other be the ones to win? I mean, even from a cynical standpoint, isn't that the path forward?
Trust isn't impossible to earn, Raya. But I can't trust what I can't believe in, and seeing a lot of overlooking and seeing a lot of warnings and seeing that you keep things in files and don't even mention them until after the fact.
Pack, mate. That's what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to overlook something.
I did not ask you to overlook. I asked you to be lenient.
Are you seriously telling me those are not synonymous right now?
They're not.
As I've already stated, he's been given a lot of chances already. I've already done this. I've already been here. Why do you think I gave him the warning to begin with? Like, again, I'm gonna lie. It was an inappropriate way for me to handle that situation. Absolutely, and I apologize for that. That was wrong. That was 100% wrong, and I apologize. But if you're seriously telling me to be lenient after everything that's already happened,
no, I merely felt that the request had been spat on from the way that you composed yourself.
If I wanted to spit on it, you and I wouldn't be here. I mean, even now, I gave him this warning. I could have done something right there, and I didn't. And I didn't because that's what you asked me to do. And I don't have to do that. I can do that, and really the only way anyone's going to change that is by issuing me a direct challenge, you know? But I mean, I didn't do that because you tried really hard, and you tried really hard for him. And part of me is like, I did want an answer. I did want a straightforward answer from that issue. Like, how does this affect him? Because at the end of the day, I do have to adjudicate it. And if he really isn't, responsible for his actions, then he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be punished, and that would be wrong. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do something that would be wrong like that. If, as you said, like, if I should be lenient because of this issue, then I should be. And yes, I approached that situation wrongly. I should have asked him when I was calmer, and I should have approached that issue and say, look, I need to know about this because if something happens, I need to know how to approach you and how to handle the issue. And yeah, that's long-winded, but it's my job.
I would very much like there to be better trust between you and my pack.
Okay, then, how about this? I'll meet with Aiden and we can have an honest talk about this. Not necessarily about this issue, like the anger issue, but we throw that out the window, just to talk.
If you would be kind enough to leave the issue of his anger to me, I hope that by time the moon is cycled again, it will be dealt with entirely.
I will leave it aside as best as I can, but if there's if there is evidence that that is affecting the sept in a negative way, then you know I'm going to take action on that.
It is rarely something that affects the greater machinations of the sept. No, usually it merely makes him look impulsive and aggressive and flings him into frenzy very readily. Raya, he is more touchy than Arun's. He is.
I mean, that sort of thing resulted in an incident that involved the truth catcher. That's what I mean. Like, frenzying happens
This
if
is
it
true.
threatens someone's life or puts someone at risk. That affects the sept, not on a major scale. You know, we're not talking full-on scale, but it does affect the sept, and I will be called into that. That will be my job. Someone will call me into that. That's not something I'm going to be able to avoid. The reason I say this is because I don't want to give you an expectation that I won't be able to live up to. So, yeah, I know you're going to try and keep them under control, and I'll try and support that where I can. And you know, I'll make that promise. You know, I won't provoke him. Even if he provokes me, because he has. I won't allow that to be argued. He absolutely has, and not in a way as to not a way to rag bash me, because we don't like each other. Let's not pretend anything more than it is. It's because we don't like each other. But I'll put that to one side, and I'll have an honest talk with him. But if something happens with that anger issue that puts someone at risk, even if it's just a frenzy on another Garu, I'm going to have to get involved because someone will be called into that. It'll probably be the person who he frenzied on. He said, this guy just tried to kill me because he frenzied because he couldn't take a joke.
Raya. If my Raya frenzies, if I am anywhere nearby, he won't reach his target one way or another. We try to be very aware of his moods and how they swing. But consider that even on a crescent moon, he is just as dangerous as any Arun during the full moon. Or not full moon. On a gibbous. Gibbous? God damn it. Hold on. Math. 7, 6, 5. So yes. On a gibbous moon, he is just as easy to agitate as any Arun on the full moon. And it's not just a temper. It's not just him being touchy. There's something in there that I'm trying to dig out. That I've been trying to dig out for months. And for the most part, thankfully, we have found ways to work around it. But I can guarantee you that if it becomes a point of issue where he might be a threat to another member of the Sept, I will be mauled long before someone else. I will not hear arguments that he is a weakness being suffered. The warder has already suggested it once. And I've never seen red so quickly in my life as when I heard it echo.
Well, I remember similar gossip being stated by William. It's just prodding for the most part. look, here's some cheap drama for us to feed off of.
She visibly relaxes marginally.
I mean, I certainly don't think that that's the case.
Thank you,
I
Ryan.
mean, well, I may consider it an issue to be resolved, obviously. You think to deserve death, and besides, that part of the litany is usually invoked when someone is long since past the point of fighting. It's not there to cheaply rid oneself of a rival. That's for cowards and true weaklings. I never asked what music you actually play.
She smirks. Most of it is traditional, from home.
Yeah, but I studied Russian folklore, not Irish. What do you have do you have like a list of songs you play, or do you
No.
are they just?
I've never learned to read music, Ryan. I play by ear.
They don't have a name?
Oh, there are many.
Hmm.
If you want a
Oh.
list, I will compile one for you. But some are improvisation based off of certain principles.
Hmm. At the end of the day, the point is about you and music. I can listen.
I'm sorry, what exactly did he ask?
He said, I can listen in kind of a smirking tone, as in like, yay, I can learn lessons, see, look at me.
She's got a faint smirk on. It's still not, she's still not wholly at ease, but she's at the very least entertained. I meant what I said, though, Ryan. And I know that thing is abominable to you. But it's a language I understand. And she points again. But I will give you this for free. My name is Moira.
He smiles at that.
Please don't believe that I mean that I want you to be cruel when I say spare the rod and spoil the child. I don't expect over-punishment to people that deserve a reminder at best. But this place is chaos. And my people are not the only ones who are accustomed to much harsher, much more frequent lessons. As long as there is a lesson. And with that, she'll reach out and finally, very briefly, grasp his shoulder. Almost grinning. Almost. And you were all of the 4th on set to learn my name, with the inclusion of a spirit. You're still in the top 5, Raya.
I'll take it.
Yeah, we should. So, with that, she will actually, lift up the arm where he is holding the scourge, wrap her hands around his that's holding it very meaningfully and set it to his chest. And she doesn't treat this thing like it's something to be feared at all. It's almost as if it's a cherished item that she is entrusting him with. And after that, she'll give his hand an awkward pat and finally turn and go to just head back to her packmates, having blown off all the steam.
Great, Jacob is a scourge, so he doesn't really know what to do with. Hooray!
Hey, he knows what to do with it. He's just being stubborn.
Party.
No, sir, she'll just make another one.
She'll run out the tunes eventually. It's fine. I'll starve her of oxygen.
Oh, God. So with that, dear watchers, I think we'll say thank you, players, for playing and watchers for watching. And we'll see you next time on the Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. Salt across New York.